Space is happening, and what happens over the next several years could define the whole rest of our species. There is a saying, whoever wins space, wins the world. There will probably be 2 poles in space or so, and there will be a race to build the cities and build the bases. Both China and the US are racing for the south pole of the moon.
Is this a country versus country race, or is this a country supporting corporations race? Today's guest is a space entrepreneur and engineer who founded LifeShip in 2019, a company building monuments of Earth across space. LifeShip made history by placing the first ever pyramid on the moon, which carried a seed bank, DNA archive, and cultural record for all of humanity.
I'm Ben Haldeman. Welcome to the Drone Wars podcast.
Ben, thanks for joining us today.
Glad to be here.
Yeah.
Excited.
Yeah. Why
Excited
don't
to
you
chat.
tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're working on?
I started a company called LifeShip, and LifeShip, our big mission is to spread life in the universe and continue the human story. And so last year, our first major mission, we put a pyramid on the moon. It's literally up there. I have a copy in my pocket. It's 30 millimeters tall, small golden pyramid. It was on this commercial moon lander built by Firefly Aerospace, and it successfully landed on the moon. Perfect landing, March 2nd of last year. And inside is a seed bank, all different plant seeds, a DNA bank, so DNA of all different species, DNA of humanity, and then a knowledge archive as well. And then all different art and other projects. And it really has become also like a platform where other entrepreneurs have built their own collections that have gone to the moon. And so yeah, we've helped other entrepreneurs start space companies. We've helped archives save a permanent archive of a collection on the moon, helped people tell stories around space, and really engaged a lot of people in it.
Talk to me about the mission for how did you get to this point? Obviously, this is a big idea. You know what I mean?
It is. I actually believe that perhaps humanity's greatest purpose is to continue life and steward life, and that we have a role in the universe, and that role is to protect life here on Earth and help it, but then also help continue life. And I say mechanical engineering. My first main project in grad school at Berkeley was instruments to look for life on Mars, so to look for amino acids in the soil, and since then, these were early prototype instruments, and now instruments have flown to Mars on rover missions and found signs of amino acids. So there likely was some sort of life process on Mars at some point. So I did that. That piqued my curiosity about life in the universe. And then I went and built big telescopes around the world for 8 years. And I designed these telescopes and built them. And those have found all sorts of new planets out there, and planets that might be somewhat Earth-like. And so, yeah, that continued to intrigue me around where could life go? Where else could there be life? And then I had the opportunity to join a company called Planet Labs early on in San Francisco. And Planet is a unicorn company. It's gone on to have an IPO and done well. I guess I'll say changed the world in ways. Planet has launched the biggest network of Earth imaging satellites that record the whole planet every day. And that data is used for all sorts of things to help make the world a more transparent place and see, what's happening in countries around the world, see what's happening where every tree gets cut down each day, see where a new road is getting cut into the rainforest, see where illegal fishing ships are fishing. And so it's really changed transparency of the world. And so that got me working on lots of spacecraft that went to space, and I designed the whole camera system, and then went on to work on the rockets work on coordinating with the rockets that went to space. And so yeah, that really got me the hardware engineering of space, and the dots kind of all connected after that towards, I think I'm meant to do something around continuing life in space.
I'm going to go really deep right now. Are you religious, or did you read a lot of sci-fi?
Yeah, I'm spiritual. Sure. I'm not attached to one religion. I didn't necessarily grow up religious or spiritual, but it's come around to me in the last 10 years. And I guess what that means to me is a feeling that like there is a greater intelligence happening, and that there is something unfolding, and that we each have a purpose. And I don't know whether there's free will or whether this is just unfolding. Yeah, in a natural way. I don't know if we're destined for the stars, but a part of me believes that humanity, like we're the species to do it. We're the ones to overcome our challenges here on Earth. We're the ones to go on to be a beautiful species among the stars. We're the ones to carry life, to ripple life across the universe and green the galaxy and do it in a beautiful way.
Did you ever read the book, The Three-Body Problem?
I read the first book. Yeah.
So, and I think it's book 3. That's where like the dark forest theory starts to pop up. That one has always got to me as like, okay, do you want to be found? And I think that was one of, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you probably know better than I do. I think that was one of Stephen Hawking's big concerns at the end of his life is maybe we don't want to be found because who finds us will be millions of years ahead in a technology standpoint, right? How do you think about like, let's go back to when you were building telescopes, right? What were some of the interesting things that you guys were looking for or trying to see with this technology that you built?
So this network of telescopes was funded by a guy, Wayne Rosing, who was an early vice president of engineering at Google, and he had been at Apple, and then he kind of like a retirement project, wanted to build a network of telescopes that all were fully robotic and all interacted together and kind of operated as a network where one sees something and then it tells others to follow up. And so what this network, wasn't the biggest telescopes ever built, but it was a network of them built around the world, all fully fast and robotic. And so they specialize at finding transient things that change over time. And so some of those things are like when a planet goes in front of another star, it dips the light by 1% maybe. And so that's one of the ways we can tell there's a planet go around another star. And then with certain calculations, you can figure out what size is the planet, what's its orbit, what's its, but then you need, there's noise. So you need to actually observe that planet every whatever 180 and a half days, like come across that star to actually prove that it's there. And so one of the things these were good at was following up and like knowing exactly when to look and find one of these planets and record it enough times and then help prove that it's actually there.
Was that something like when you had the opportunity to work on that platform, was that something you always wanted to do? Or was it like, did it start as like kind of a job? You know what I mean?
Yeah, space kept growing as a curiosity. I don't think I was like set on working on space. I was pretty interested in robotics too. But then this opportunity popped up, and a friend was the first person to join and knew the guy who founded it, and I was like the third person to join. We all kind of joined within a couple of months of each other, and it was a cool opportunity, a cool mentor to build stuff with, and I learned a lot and got to build these big robotic telescopes with friends.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool, and it kind of has helped shape the path you've been on, for the last couple decades, right?
Totally.
So talk to us about like what caused you, like when you were thinking about this, why were you like, I need to found LifeShip?
Yeah, the original vision came, I had worked on satellites for 5 years with Planet Labs and had a pretty wild, fast growing ride there. Then had a series of events that made me feel like I was meant to do something else, and then that I gave myself like 6 months to like see what came without like forcing the I must work on this thing or I must join a company. Like I gave myself space and spent a lot of time in nature. And one time I was down in just like all of a sudden got called to Guatemala and this Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, which has been called the most gorgeous lake in the world. And this lake surrounded by volcanoes. And I did this this long, like 6-hour hike by myself up into the forest and meditated under this giant tree I found. And then in this meditation, I felt like I connected with an intelligence of Earth. And I felt like the Earth is an organism and that the Earth, like I saw as bursting at its seams with life and like ready to reproduce. And felt humans are like cells of this organism and we're a piece of helping the Earth reproduce. And so that kind of like really stuck with me and shifted things. And like I came out of that and like instantly was like, oh, my purpose is to help Earth reproduce. And pretty shortly after that came, I like to think in MVPs. I like to make progress and do something. So like a first mission, like, oh, let's save a seed bank and a DNA bank and save a copy of Earth, because that matters also for our great grandchildren and future generations. Like let's save a copy of all the species for the future. And that's a step towards like whatever this could evolve towards, whether it's like seeds that we shoot out there and could spread life, or humans heading out on a interstellar starship to like carrying with them a bank of life and going out there to populate a new world, or a biosphere on the moon, like with a rainforest in a glass bubble on the moon. And so it kind of like it is the MVP towards like a whole array of aligned projects that could come out of this.
Do you like, how did you decide what you were going to curate and put inside like each of these pyramids?
Yeah. So I started more with plants because plants are a bit easier to get than animals in certain ways. And so there were a few botanical gardens that I was able to like get a good worldwide collection of DNA and seeds from. And then there's a sprinkling of different animals and ones from around the world. And I think like there's a good collection of fish because I had a partnership there that gave me 100 fish and the DNA from them without killing them. And so, yeah, what was accessible? And then one of the first product we made to like help start to fund this was a commercial DNA kit where people pay $100 and your DNA goes to the moon. And so, that also was a start to like engage people and get people on board and build it also as like a community movement where people can be involved in these things.
Did you see a groundswelling of support from people to do this type of stuff? I can only imagine. People like it. Yeah. Like people, yeah. There's people that like it as a profound thing for them. There's people that have dreamed about working on something that went to the moon or like touching the moon or there is some special connection there of like, oh, I did something and a piece of me is up there is something special. And then, there's people that their art goes to the moon and like, there's people that are like in their LinkedIn bio, they're like a space poet now because like their poem went to the moon. Sure.
And so there's people that identify strongly with this. And then there's entrepreneurs that have created whole companies and like, oh, we built a metaverse museum and the museum's on the moon. And so they've built things around this as well.
Do you see different generations or age groups being more interested than the others?
Yeah, kind of a range, but people for different reasons. There's older people who maybe watched the moon landings and are like now thinking about their legacy or always dreamed like, oh, like space is happening faster than we think and like I will get to go to the moon. And now it turns out they might they may feel like they're running out of time to get to the moon. And
sure.
So this is a way to be part of it. But then there's a lot of people more in their 30s to 40s that want to be involved in space in some way.
Yeah.
Not only do we put DNA on the moon, but we're building this as a community movement where we actually want to have a community on the moon someday.
Sure.
And so it is also a way for people to be engaged in like a space program. Like
Sure.
I see us as like a planetary space program.
Sure.
That's about everyone and about life.
Now, it's been incredible. Like I talked to my dad, right, who watched the moon landing, and he's like, everyone was watching, the whole world was watching. Then you look at like the Artemis 2 mission. That was probably the most excitement, at least I can remember. I'm 40 years old, with anything having to do with space in a long time. Maybe some of the early SpaceX flights, or like when the re-entry vehicle lands back on the pad. Those were really cool. But nothing like that, right? Do you think we're at the beginning of another, I mean, we kind of are in another space race, but are we in another culturally defining kind of time where space, sits front and center again?
Yeah, it is very clear to me that like these next few years, like it is ramping. It is ramping exponentially. And I feel like, if you look at like what AI has done for the world and how much it's like popped up and changed all our lives in the last just like 2-3 years,
Sure.
Like space is just about to be that. Like we are about to have thousands of big rockets that are meant to carry hundreds of people being able flying point to point around Earth. And if you go to Singapore, like you'll be able to fly a rocket there, and it'll just take off vertically and land vertically, and you'll do it in a half hour, and you'll go through space. And like we're going to just be. It's not a question of for me anymore. Like, oh, will I make it to space? It's just like that's how we're going to fly around on big trips around Earth, and then there will get to daily flights on the moon, and there will be. It is serious that like there are a lot of people knowing that we're building cities on the moon and Mars in the coming like 5, 10, 15 years. Yeah.
So talk to me, that leads next, like really well into the next segment of like stewardship and not conquest, right? Yeah. Maybe explain in your mind what stewardship is versus conquest, and then like why that's important.
Totally. Space is a bit of a blank canvas, and what ends up happening in space ends up coming back and reflects and happens back here on Earth. And we have an opportunity to do this about life, to do this about who can humanity be at our best. And yes, there are space races going on, and there's a lot of unknowns how this will unfold, and there probably will be combat in space, and and space brings out the best in us in many ways, and people around the world dream about it, and so I feel right now is some people ask why focus on space right now, but like space is happening, and what happens over the next several years could define the whole rest of our species and like the whole rest of our galaxy and like the rest of life and as we know it. And so like right now is that opportunity for people to engage in a beautiful narrative of who we can be. And so, yeah, I believe like humans as stewards of life is one of these, it's a concept that can help us imagine a beautiful future of like, oh yeah, what if we are the ones to carry life outward and steward life and live amongst the stars and do it in a beautiful way, and if we collectively have a North Star and a dream of where humanity is headed, then that helps things today. It helps inspire people towards that today.
I think in my brain, like, the voyages to the New World where everyone had to work together to at least get over there. And, obviously those voyages, they were intended to be trading missions, and then they became missions of conquest, right? How much of it is we have to set that North Star, and we have to be committed to it, because humans, we do have a tendency to be very violent. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we have a tendency to conquest, I guess, is like kind of what I'm getting at. Mm-hmm. How do you, in your mind, try and negate or blunt or allow that not to happen?
What we're doing is we've started with a monument on the moon that's done in a beautiful way. I feel like we've got good timing. Like we still got that up there pretty darn early as far as like missions to the moon, and we're sending 2 more later this year. One to the moon, one to an asteroid.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I believe like us getting this mission out there, doing it in a way like building towards bigger monuments, building towards like a cathedral-sized monument on the moon, and doing it in a way that like engages people and like people from all over can feel a piece of that and a part of that. Then, yeah, my hope is that this program and this narrative can help be another pole in this future of and space is a bit of the Wild West, and we're it's not exactly clear how it's all going to unfold, but so my hope is that just let's get people involved and get people doing it, and do it in a beautiful way and put our marks out there.
It seems to me that it's an opportunity to like remind people about shared humanity, right? And so that's like a good segue. Like humans, like I want to ask why pyramids, right? Uh-huh. Every culture seems to have built pyramids, right? So I mean, it's fitting, but like tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, there's something about pyramids. Like maybe it's in our DNA.
Sure,
like it's in our consciousness somehow.
Yeah,
and yeah, many of the great civilizations, like that's the thing that we have left behind from them, and we're a great civilization, and we've designed these. We have technology in it meant to last 1 billion years. We etched information into crystal to last 1 billion years, and so a pyramid seemed fitting as like as a monument, of a civilization meant to carry a legacy and a story, and a bit of mystery and hints about our time to an unknown future recipient.
What's the greatest pyramid you've seen here on Earth?
So earlier this year, I did a trip to Egypt, and it was with an amazing group of 20 people, and we had an hour of private time in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid, and that was profound. It felt like I was on a spaceship.
Yeah,
it was. We turned all the lights off and laid down for like a half hour of it, and
very cool.
Yeah, it was something was resonating.
Yeah, it's amazing when you actually see how big those structures are. Yeah. And you think about when they were made. Uh-huh. It's incredible. I always like when I look at the pyramids and all the conspiracy theories about who built them. I always am like, we don't give humans enough credit for our ingenuity. Just because we didn't write down or like explain how it was done doesn't mean it wasn't done. Like you give humans enough time and some money, you know what I mean? They can figure out and solve a lot of problems. And we just, for whatever reason, think humans couldn't build anything until a couple hundred years ago. It's very, very odd to me. You know what I mean?
It was a great feat, but like I totally envisioned, okay, humans did this.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
If you align a significant
a number of people
and
with food and
time.
time.
It wasn't even like, it was like 5% of the population were like in it, and like they were living in a pretty peaceful time, and so like normally
with
5% would have been at war or whatever. And like, so yeah, it was totally doable, and they lived in a very fertile area and a protected area. The deserts on either side, so they were able to focus and
You ever seen the pyramids in Mexico?
I've been to Teotihuacan and a few others like in Tulum.
Incredible.
Yeah. Chichen Itza.
Chichen Itza is really cool too. Yeah. I want to change roles in a big way and just talk about the new space movement. for a couple minutes here.
No.
Okay, so I'm going to just say you're one of the OGs of space tech. What do you think are some of the most underrated technologies in the industry right now?
Yeah. And I've invested in a bunch of space companies too. I've probably about 20 space companies now. We're sending one of these pyramids on to an asteroid with an asteroid mining company called Astroforge. And at first I was like, asteroid mine, that's too far out. But like all these these things are ready now. Like we got the big rockets coming, and these like quadrillion-dollar asteroids float by regularly, and we need the metals, we need the materials. Mining here on Earth causes conflict and is destructive, and so like let's go get the metals, let's go get the asteroids, and so that's super cool. A big hot area is data centers in space, and like. Solar panels are 8 times more efficient in space, and getting the land and the permitting here on Earth is hard. So, let's put power generation in space and then put the compute there. Like that now seems totally logical. And there's a lot of companies doing that. And so the more we can move heavy industry to space, like the better. And like, let's start with power generation, and instead of eventually we'll beam power back down, but like let's put the compute up there because that's easy and small, then needs power, and so that's the logical thing. There's like helium-3, which is a radioactive material on the moon, and that actually is used in X-ray machines and other things, and so that will be an industry bringing that back from the moon to Earth. There's ice in the craters on the moon, and ice can then turn into water and hydrogen, which is a fuel, and oxygen, which is we breathe and is used in combustion as well. And so getting ice and water on the moon is a thing. There are companies to like scoop up the regolith, which is the small dust on the moon, and then 3D print with it. And there you can make ceramics. There's metals in it, and so like we can build things on the moon. We can build structures, and so lots of these companies are getting funded and are going for it, and the whole kind of like industry is popping up, and it's like, okay, like what's needed for a city on the moon? Like all the different companies are being built.
So out of these startups, and it sounds like you've put your money where your mouth is, which I always really appreciate as a founder. How many of the space startups make it over the next decade?
Good question. We'll find out. I think a good chunk of these will. Like I think SpaceX is about to have the biggest IPO ever in like about a month, and then there's a bunch of other space companies that have already gone public that are riding that wave, and then there's a bunch that are raising a ton around data centers, and SpaceX obviously has an advantage because they're building they have a huge moat with their big Starship rocket.
Exactly.
But they also want other companies to exist and are flying other things. And so, I think a handful of these data center companies will do it. Like Google is working on one with my old company, Planet Labs. Planet's building the satellites for it. There's a few others. So there will be a handful of data center constellations. There'll be a few different communications networks in space. There will probably be several companies building habitats and building moon hotels and building big structures and 3D printing things and mining things, and I think a good chunk of there's room for 4 or 5 companies doing each of these different things, and
so thematically, do you think about it almost as like the infrastructure we build on Earth? We want to replicate that in space.
Totally. Like we'll need a lot of the things here. Like we're also, there's a lot of other manufacturing that can move to space, and there's having having zero gravity and having the vacuum makes it like there's certain biological things that you can make in space better, or pharmaceutical, or like fiber optic or other things that can make sense in space as well. So yeah, we'll increasingly like make more stuff. It'll be more accessible. We'll bring things up. We'll bring things back. We'll do things like power and communications, and not be running cell phone towers all around Earth, but then like just beam
it down.
communications from space. And yeah.
So like, what do you think this does to the world geopolitically? I mean, is it something that whoever owns it wins, in your opinion?
Like there is a saying, whoever wins space, like wins the world, essentially. Sure. And we have perhaps a bipolar world with the U.S. and China. Maybe multipolar, maybe there's more there. And then definitely there are these super powerful companies that are, that are building across the array of rockets and robots and AI and communications and all of it. And so how those play into it and how the countries play into it, I am hopeful that we can do things beautiful for humanity. And yes, there will probably be two poles in space or so, and there will be a race to build the cities and build the bases, and how that, whether one gets like so much more energy or so much more resources from space and is able to pull ahead, or whether we're able to kind of see how the world is divided up and see how the space is. There's a lot of space out there for now, but there are specific spots, like the south pole of the moon is the best place to build a city, because there's ice craters nearby and there's like peaks that have 90% sunlight throughout the year. And so, both China and the U.S. are racing for the south pole of the moon. And so, at some point, both will be building things there. And so,
is this a country versus country race, or is this a country supporting corporations race, in your opinion?
Yeah, I guess the corporations are becoming like our space agencies in a way, and And
what do you think NASA looks like as a result in a decade or 2 decades?
I think NASA inspires us. NASA puts people out there. NASA helps be an anchor customer on certain missions. I don't think a lot of the hardware will be built by NASA. Maybe certain scientific missions or certain exploration missions, even though there's less focus on scientific, but there are certain things that still I think like NASA can take the lead on that isn't commercial yet. But yeah, I think even like exploration missions, like a lot of those are now private companies, and NASA can be part of them, and NASA can send people on them. But yeah, whether there's a NASA base or how it works, I'm not sure.
It's like there's so many parallels you can draw between like this and then the Europeans going to the new world or opening new trade routes. You know what I mean? A lot of these these groups of boats or these collections of boats were basically corporations, right? Government funded some of it or taxed some of it, but like what they brought back. But a lot of times it was private groups or private folks going out and taking the risk. So does NASA then become kind of like NASA's legacy long-term becomes like we helped start the movement? Is that how we'll look back on it, you think, in 2 decades?
NASA started all this. Yeah. And what NASA's role in the future, we'll see. But like NASA is still, it still is a brand, and it still is a part of the story.
Beloved.
And it is like
people love it.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
And it has a huge impact. It will continue to have a huge impact. And
think about how many NASA T-shirts you see the general public wearing. I mean, it It is a brand. It's incredible, right? So they need to figure out ways to stay relevant and to hopefully continue that mind share. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and think about how many kids have grown up like, I want to be a NASA astronaut.
Exactly.
And yeah, I think most at some point we'll be like, oh, I want to be. It won't be NASA that probably will take you to space, but you probably will go to space.
Sure.
And so we will find that that organization or that group that takes us to space and like who we're associated with and how that is. But NASA still paves the way, and probably perhaps the first people to walk on Mars will be wearing NASA on their on their arm badge. And yeah.
Is there anything is there a hill you'd be willing to die on when we're talking about space?
If I can do something that helps shift the trajectory of the long term of the universe and how we care for Earth, and then yeah, I would I'd make a stand. If I do, I'd have an impact in that direction.
Do you think that a lot of the folks who build space companies look at this is a way to escape Earth as opposed to try and better Earth? Or I mean, you spend a bunch of time with these founders. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely a narrative, but I don't see that really at all. Most of the people I know who are doing stuff in space, who care about space, love Earth, know that they're never going to see anything better than Earth in their life, and in many future generations we won't. Space gives a perspective on Earth. It they call the overview effect, looking back at Earth and realizing, oh, that's that's our spaceship. That's where all life is. Yeah. We're fighting over and dividing up it, but that's a gorgeous organism we have there. And so I think space does a lot for helping us appreciate Earth.
It's every single person who's been to space says the same exact thing. It is incredible. And if anyone's listening has never watched an interview with an astronaut of what they think about Earth when they see it from space, it is almost universal, a spiritual moment for them. Maybe that'll have a better lasting impact on humanity too. More people can actually understand that we are actually on a spaceship, you said. Yep. A big blue and green spaceship, right?
And you definitely there is a I've bin thinking about space and doing this stuff for a while, but I know I used to feel there was a barrier up there.
Sure.
It's oh, what is the space thing? And now it just feels like we're in space now. There's we have this imaginary barrier of just because rockets have been hard, but very soon they're open and very the moon is another continent. It's we'll just be flying there and doing stuff there. So I feel like that barrier has cracked open for me, and it will become apparent for many people.
Yeah. Last set of questions here, right? How important are autonomous systems going to be with everything we do in space?
I am excited about life in space. It's hard to put humans in space, robots and spacecraft and doing all the things just make sense. And so there will be spacecraft flying out to the asteroids and mining and doing all the things. There will be rovers driving around the moon and building big things. There will be humanoid robots on these, and robots will do a lot of the building, the heavy lifting, and that's another reason that this all can scale fast and in a way.
All right. So one thing I like to ask people is, what are they reading or listening to? So what's if we're going to pull up your, we're going to see what books you have, on the side of your bed, or what audiobooks you're listening to or podcasts you're listening to. What are you learning about right now?
Yeah, I've for podcasts, most recently, I've been listening to some Peter Diamandis. He has some great podcasts. I've been listening to most of those that come out. I listened to some Tony Robbins ones. I listen to All In podcasts. Those are probably my top 3 right now. I read the book Hail Mary recently and saw
Great
the movie. I loved that book.
Yep. He's got a great book of short stories too. I think Mike Weir, right, is the author? Andy Weir. Yeah. Ben, thanks for joining me today. This was great.
It was great, Dan.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to the Drone Wars podcast. If you liked what you heard today, please subscribe to catch all the latest insights for all things defense and geopolitics.